All right. Oh, see, because David said, let's just do it. So I took him at his word.
I've never had that. Oh, okay.
No, that's a new thing on Zoom. I know, right? So hi team. So we're talking to David Ross today, and hi David. It's going to be really exciting because now this is all about collaboration. It's all about sharing and engaging with our stories. Our piece of better, whether that's better for ourselves, what we're doing, whether that's better for the people around us, the companies, our organizations, or the planet, doesn't really matter. It's all about just sharing our stories, and I just love David's story. Going to launch straight in our usual style. This is how we do things. This is how we roll. If you want to find the official details of David, there will be a link so you can go and check it out, and you can go and connect with him on LinkedIn, etc. But I asked him a question last week, and I'm going to repeat the question. And I've known David for a little while, and it's been just such a pleasure because just his energy and what he's doing and how he's doing it and how he interacts with people. It's just like really special. But I did ask him a question, and I did say, David, I haven't really got a handle on what you do, what you're good at, what you like to do, what you don't like to do, and what your big passion piece is. And that's what I asked him. Poor man. So that's the question of today.
Thank you so much for that. I'm devastated that from all of our wonderful conversations that you haven't known so much about me, but finally we're getting to know what the heck I am or who the heck I am.
That deeper. No, I could paint the picture, but it's like, no, it's that deeper magic.
So when it comes to work, I'm a strategist, and essentially I help leaders, organizations, and communities deal with their most complex and often polarizing social and environmental and sometimes economic issues. And so that can be anything from, as my title suggests, from organizational strategy through to dealing with the cranky people with the pitchforks and the flaming torches. And I love it, but I know I've got to answer that somewhere along the way too. But from an organization's perspective, so the work I do essentially helps organizations protect their reputation or their social license to operate, if you've ever heard that title, or help engage their staff and stakeholders. So that's kind of what I do to some extent. Was there one about what am I good at?
Yeah. Well, what like, yes, because you would describe to me that, and I can sense how it would impact that what you do and what you're good at is very draining, and you had some real life examples of that. And it's an interesting question whether what you're good at and what other people appreciate is enough nurturing and for your soul and what you want to do.
Okay, so I'm not sure if this is the answer that you're expecting, but so I started out as an ecologist, playing in forests and jumping around in rivers, and I loved what I did. But the reason I share that with you and your many fans out there is that an ecologist has to understand ecosystems and understand how disparate bits of an ecosystem fit together. So as a strategist, it helps me to be able to find where there are actually links between, say, a business and it could be anything like climate change. I can very easily find all the different links commercially, from a reputation perspective, marketing, HR, find all the links that many other people don't see. That comes to me very quickly. I also, I don't know why, I don't know how I should say, but imagine that when it comes to dealing with cranky people, and I deal with a lot of cranky people, I'm able to bring people down, bring them to a place where they feel listened to and they're calm. And from there, it happens to me all the time that whether it be a CEO or somebody on the margins who doesn't have a voice, so to speak, in some of the world's most poorest communities, people observe that they share things with me. After they've been cranky, they'll share things with me that they haven't shared with anyone. So kind of all that what I've just described to you really helps me to understand a context for a tremendously complex situation very readily, very quickly, and be able to help my clients and communities to with tactics to be able to position themselves and find a lovely way forward fairly quickly. The next question was it about what I don't like doing or don't want to be doing? I should have written this down and pretended or feigned to your audience that I'm more professional than I'm looking at the moment. So over the years, as part of that, being able to help communities and leaders and organizations with dealing with the most polarizing of issues, for many years I have been, if you like, imagine parachuted in, I'm saying this rather facetiously, parachuted in behind enemy lines as an independent mediator between angry communities and organizations, public and private, that might be in, for example, in the mining sector, waste management, renewable energy, well, even crime and access to fresh water in river basins. They can all be very briefly, very polarizing issues. And coming back to what I said about I'm very fortunate and privileged enough to be able to extract from people things that they would never anticipate, that I build trust quite readily too. I'm very fortunate in that regard. And what I'm finding that I'm getting more tired of doing is that there's a lot of giving on my part. So I if you like, I absorb a lot of anger from people on those particular issues that I've just described. You know, in the moment of people being angry about something for years, I've got to be there to support them. And then I often, because of the trust that I build with people then start to tell me other parts of their lives about how they just don't feel like they feel like their community is dying, or because of climate change, they're frightened that their husband, who might be a farmer, is about to take his life. So I absorb a lot of that and have to try and, find a way to keep people on their feet. While it's very humbling, I find that having done it for many years now, there are times when, as an intermediate or independent mediator, I don't have control over a situation. I am able to enable incremental improvements, but because I don't have control over the situation, I get frustrated, and I find that I'm getting a bit more tired in that part of my work, that I've just, I've absorbed. I've been a big sponge, and I've absorbed too much. So that's what I'm getting tired of doing. What was the final question?
It's a tough. Yeah, it's hard.
Look, I'm finding it is, Trish. I'm finding that there's more outrage within society, and while I have an expertise in that, I love training people on that and advising people on that. When you see from a member of the C-suite or from a community member's perspective, that they feel like they're not getting anywhere, or they're not getting as far along in the conversations they would like to, and that's often as a result of, and forgive me for getting a bit deep here, when you dig beneath the surface, that comes down to systemic issues of government policies and regulations no longer keep up with things. And for the private sector, a lot of the C-suite feel like, well, I'm obliged to just create shareholder value, but that's coming at the expense of these, what are they called, externalities, the environment and people, society. So it is tough. Absolutely.
And are you finding, I think a lot of these communities and people have been very lucky to have you, from just your stories and what I'm hearing and your nature. They're very lucky.
I hope so. Imagine there's lots of times when I'll run town hall style meetings of 150 to 200 people, and the atmosphere can be electric at the start of them. There is most definitely the potential for a punch up to take place within the first 5 minutes. That requires me to massage the words often of people within the audience, as well as, if you like, massage my own word. It's very intense up here, trying to make sure that things remain civil. But then to come back to your question, through time in a town hall style meeting, because I give people power and I ask people questions to really understand them, they come away feeling listened to. And the cranky mob, it always humbles me and is a real privilege at the end of meetings when people will come up to me and shake my hand and say, you know what, I was expecting that you're going to try and control the direction of these meetings and control solutions, and you did none of that. And you listened to us, and no one's been listening to us, so thank you so much. And that just makes my day. Yeah.
It's so powerful.
It is, yeah.
So how are you going to now synthesize all that into something that's powerful for David, that nurtures what you want to be about next, and the better and difference you want to now make next in the world?
Very good question, which I had forgotten about. So at the start of the pandemic, if you can imagine that for a couple of years I've been trying to get overseas. I was trying to change the makeup of my work firstly, and do more work overseas, that I could get all the referrals I want in Australia, but I felt like I had no more challenges. So wanted to change the scope of the work so that I wasn't doing so much of the cranky people. I just don't feel that authentically I could do much more of that. So as a result of the pandemic and Zooms and meeting wonderful people like yourself, I've been able to start making the shift in terms of strategy. I'm advising a couple of startups in the US, and have been advising a tech startup in Ireland. I'm starting to do more presentations in the US as well. And I'm writing a book. And developing online training. So what I can't remember if this is one of your questions, but I'm going to answer it anyway. I'm really passionate about, and I've always been passionate about, trying to ensure that leaders within government and leaders within the private sector truly appreciate that from a holistic perspective, what's happening outside their front door is actually of relevance to their organisation strategically. It's not a case of we are isolated from what's out there. And so, with issues, and that can be issues like climate change, or what I was saying about anger and outrage, and I could go on and on and on with that list. So I'm been shifting the business so I can get to more people. The book that I'm writing is about kind of what I've just described in terms of what I'm passionate about. I'm developing online training. I love doing training at the best of times. I love those epiphanies that people have. So I'm doing more of the online training. I suppose I need to be, once I get the book out of the way, is being more proactive, finding the time to be more proactive with creating awareness overseas to build those leads and build more work around strategic management, climate change, all those complex and polarizing social and environmental issues that I talked about.
Now that we can get sorted before breakfast.
Yeah.
That is so cool. I just love hearing people's stories and the passion. And when you're listening to people, you can really hear what jumps out as to their just their talent and the difference they want to make in the world by using what they're about. and then connecting with what other people, connecting with the leaders and businesses that want to be more climate conscious and aware, and how can they do that, and in a partnership, working together. None of us can do any of this by ourselves.
No, I love that last thing you said about partnerships. That I'm very passionate also about teamwork and collaboration. An American entrepreneur said to me that his organization is really passionate about the we is greater than the I, the individual, when it comes to finding, delivering achievements and stuff, innovations beyond what an individual could dream of. And that's very much my way of thinking. One other thing I just briefly wanted to mention in response to something you'd said, Trish, I've been very fortunate in that I know what I love doing and what I'm good at doing. But boy, the number of people that I work with or talk to who are struggling to find their sweet spot, I think you were kind of alluding to that. Yeah, that's something that really touches me. That you spend so much of your life working. Well, wouldn't it be fantastic if all that time you spent working is actually something that you love doing, rather than you just feel like, well, for example, there'll be plenty of people out there who are great at something, but they don't like doing it. Like I've been with, being parachuted in behind enemy lines.
Imagery. And I was thinking, I brought up before about connecting in with businesses and leaders around climate change and the actions that can happen there. I should have mentioned it here instead, because I often think, like, find the people in a business, so people in a business who are passionate about that particular business, but also passionate about climate change. So that, like, find those people in there, because everyone's got a different passion. Some people are more passionate about climate change, some people more about equity, some people more about, people finding their passion, some people more about poverty. And they're all equally important, but different people have different passions around that. So actually go and find those climate people, for example, in an organization, and then draw them together as the champions, and then they can draw the next level and draw the next level. So actually find them, rather than sort of make it necessarily a sort of, like, I don't mean top down as in leaders doing it to everybody else. I mean like a personality top down. I'm a role top down. I'm the leader, therefore I've got to lead it. Like, I'm a CEO and I am passionate about climate change. Go find the other people. I am, this is not my strength. Right, I'll go and build a team within my organization who is keen on that, and they can lead it and they can drive it. And that's real partnership. That's partnership within a business. And you can imagine spreading that all out. That would be cool. That
is cool. Within corporate strategy, but also in work in communities, there's a process called asset-based community development. And the key word there is your assets. So, when an organization or when a community or a leader is confronted by these huge issues, the so-called wicked problems, often we view them as, they're a challenge, and how are we going to deal with this challenge? Whereas if there's this lovely mindset, I suppose you call it, of if we first identify what are our appropriate assets within our organization, we have a far better way of tackling these challenges we face. So that comes back to what you said. If you could find a person that has a skill that they're passionate about, that they could, that the organization could call on to deal with climate change. If you have groups or communities of practice within your organization that are passionate about climate change or collaboration or something, if you can find them, rather than the old way of like, well, we've got this challenge, how are we going to minimize the challenge? It's so more effective, it's so more powerful, it's so more engaging for the organization as a whole, because people are bringing, as you said before, they're bringing their passions to the conversation as a result.
I love that, bringing their passions. That's so cool, and that's what this is all about. If we share our collective stories, we're doing that with each other, and then that's going to have a wider and wider impact. And I feel like,
absolutely,
yeah, I feel like I could just keep talking. It's only like it feels like a pause. So many of these conversations, they just, I've got like 100 more questions and 100 more stories that we can share. But I hope that's inspired everybody. It's inspired me. And
thank you. And thank you to anyone who watches.
Yeah, let's just see what's possible, because I know heaps of things are.
Cool.
Awesome. See you guys.
Thanks. Bye.